Alright, so welcome everybody. So for this video, I wanted to share with you all my top 10 favorite Red Raven games list. So I really like Red Raven games. I really like Ryan Lauka's games. Beautiful artwork. I like all of the artwork for all of the games that have come out thus far, and there's been about 17 Red Raven games or so that have come out, with a few more coming out this year. And it was very hard to pick what I really liked, which games out of the top 10 that I decided to pick for my top 10. It was really hard to pick because I love the artwork for all of the games. So gameplay, I guess, would be the biggest reason why I picked certain games over other games. But with only 17, it really isn't much of a top 10 list. It's not like there's 50 Red Ribbon games out. But still, I really love Red Ribbon games, really love Ryan Lauka's games, and I've been wanting to share with you all for a while now my favorites, my top 10 favorite list of Red Ribbon games. So let's get started here pretty soon because I do not want this video to be like 30 minutes long. So what we'll do is for the 6 through 10 of the top 10, we will keep it short. We'll probably only talk about it for a minute or so. And maybe talk about maybe just one or two things I really like about the games. But as we get to the top 5, we'll talk a little bit more detail about those games in particular. So let's get started with my number 10. So what is my number 10? Well, let's see. Artifacts Incorporated. This is my number 10 for my top 10 favorite Red Ribbon games list. Now, why do I like Artifacts Incorporated? Well, for one thing, it's a dice placement game. So you roll dice and then you place dice on these cards. It's sort of like a worker placement game. In fact, you could even say that it's like a worker placement game. But I really like this aspect of placing the dice on various cards to get certain things. And then, like, if I put it here, I get a fossil, and then I just put a component, one of these cubes here, to indicate that I've got a fossil. I really like that. And, you know, and then if you want to buy a bunch of cards, you need a 2 or higher to buy a bunch of cards. To buy a card, I mean. And there's so many different cards you can actually buy. Not all of these, obviously, but like this one, for instance, you could buy that. That one, for instance. There's so many different cards you can buy. I really like the fact that this is a dice placement game. It's really cool. I think it's my only actual dice placement game that I actually own. So this is really cool. So this was actually my first dice placement game, and so maybe I'll get another one someday. But it's really cool. I really like putting the dice down on all the various cards. It's a very short, easy game, and if I didn't talk about it already, this is a game where you're an archaeologist, or should I say you have a company, an archaeology company, and you're sending people out to find various artifacts, and then obviously you're going to want to sell them to the museums. And so that's basically the theme of the game. But anyways, this is why this is my number 10 for Artifacts Incorporated. All right. What's my next one? Rome. Rome is my number 9. So this is a very interesting little game. The theme of the game is in this part of Arzium, this area has undergone some sort of great sleeping sickness. And so all of the adventurers in the area are sort of walking around in a sort of dreamlike state, sort of like sleepwalking, if you will. And so as a fellow adventurer, the theme in the game is to find these fellow adventurers here and basically recruit them to help out and help everyone else out as well that are also in a similar daze as well. And so in this game, we have, like, each player is going to get three adventurers. And so red is my favorite because it's got 2 lizard men and it's got a frog folk as well. And what you're going to do is you're going to put various discs to form a pattern on on this grid here, on all of these cards here that form this huge grid. And so, like, there's various patterns. And as you unlock more adventures, you'll get more access to more patterns. But, like, for instance, I can put one there, and one there. And if I was going to play with Lemaitre here, for instance. And then next time I went, I could play this one here, Saltern. So I could maybe put this one here and this one here for his pattern. And then for this guy, I could just put one down, technically. So I could put, like, maybe one right there, because of this invisible, this one here isn't as whole as this one, for instance. So I don't have to put one there above it, because I already put one there anyway. But basically, that you get the point, that you'll be putting out various patterns on this grid. And then once a card is completely filled with these discs of all the obvious various colors that are in the game, once that happens, then the player who has the most of their color on the card then claim the card. And there's obviously some, there's a different rule for if it's a tie, for instance. But you will claim the card and then get the particular adventurer. So here we have Warren the Thief. He was carving fruit. And I really love all the different adventurers. Here we have Glunkin Drop was gnawing on a lava rock. So, you know, you maybe helped him out. I don't know. Maybe his kind can eat lava rocks. Those are Glogos, after all. And then we have this guy was making tea with white flowers. So they're all, you know, doing weird things somewhat. Or maybe weird that might be weird for them. Like, for instance, Greer was returning some books to a friend. Well, he's a machine. So that seems a little weird for a machine to be returning books to a friend. But, yeah, so they're all doing weird things because they're in this, like, dreamlike state or sort of like sleepwalking type state. And so they're basically suffering from this disease, and you're going around and you're just waking them up from their sleeping sickness. And then you get to have them help you out. And so that I really like that aspect of the game. The game is easy and simple, and I really love, obviously, the artwork, and I love all the different humanoid races, like the Glogos and the Lizardmen and the Frog Folk, for instance. So that was my number 9. So, what's my number 8? Klondike Rush. This is my number 8. So Klondike Rush is a pretty interesting little game. It's really interesting. So let's take a look at it real quick. So Klondike Rush, and this is our, like, town token here that we start at. What we're going to do is, and I really love the Yeti. This is the first player token. So when it's your turn to place mines and maybe even make the first bid on various companies, you're going to get to hold on to this cool, awesome Yeti. And there's some Yeti tokens in the game, too, that you might come across. There will be various goods tokens on all these empty circles on the board, and it'll just be all random. And so there'll be some Yeti tokens in the mix as well. So you'll want to collect, you know, various goods. You'll want to collect various, and you'll probably want to collect the Yeti tokens as well. But what you're going to do is, we have these companies here. And so even though this game can have actually 5 players, these colors here of mines don't indicate individual players. All of the players will have access to all of the 4 different mines. And originally I thought that each player would just get one of these colors, but no, you play with all of the colors regardless of how many players you have in the game. So that's kind of interesting. But what you're going to do is, like, let's say these are the first 2 companies that come out. You're gonna bid on these 2 companies, and the person who wins the bid is going to take these 2 cards here, these 2 companies. They're going to put the corresponding mine or mines. This one takes a blue mine, and this one takes a green mine. you're going to take those cards, you're going to take those mines, and if it's your turn, then you're going to place a mine down from here to here, or from here to here, or here to here to start with. So maybe I would put it here. I would get the good that would be placed here. Okay, I don't have the goods tokens out, but I'd get the good token that was there. Then I'd put the mine down, and then I'd also have to pay money. I'd have to pay 2 money from here to place that mine here. Okay, so the money is all in cards. These little cards here is the money. You start with a certain amount of money, but it can go pretty fast. So you'll want to get various goods and then sell certain goods to make tons of extra money. Of course, you can sell like 3 goods of your choice at any given time when it's your turn to make at least a few bucks back. But you're going to need money, obviously, to continue bidding on all of the different companies and the mines and placing them out. But you're going to place them out, you're going to get the goods, that's really cool. And then it's going to cost you like 2 money from here to here. But let's say I also wanted to play this one on my turn, and I could do that. And I could put it here. Maybe the good I want is currently here. It would cost 2 plus 1 to pay, obviously, to put it there. But because I'm going through this mine, which was already placed, it would actually only cost 2 money. Because for each mine that you go through, it's going to decrease the price by 1. So yeah, if you continue to go out in this direction with the mines, 2, 3, 5, 8. So if you were to put mine here, but because there's mines here, that would decrease it. So it wouldn't be 8. Once you get to here, it would actually be 5, because there'd be a mine here, here, and here. So that would decrease it by 3. So I really like that. That's kind of interesting. Getting all sorts of different goods, maybe getting some Yeti tokens, and placing out all the different mines out to get those goods. That's kind of interesting. And then you're just trying to make tons of cash doing so by selling all the various goods that you find along the way. And that's basically what you want to do. You'll have cards in here where you can complete orders and things like that as well. So that's really cool. And that's basically how you play, at least a little bit of an overview of how you play Klondike Rush. And what I like about the game is definitely kind of interesting for sure. I really like this game a lot. It's very easy to learn. The rulebook is only 2 pages long, so very small rulebook. This is definitely an easy game to play, and I'll be doing a how to play video on this sooner rather than later. So anyways, that's Klondike Rush, and that is my number... it's my number 8. All right. So what's my number 7? Well, let's see. The Ancient World. The Ancient World is my number 7. So there's a lot of different things I like about this game. So let's take a look at the board real quick. So, yeah, I like the board. Board is big and beautiful. You don't get to see the whole board, but you see most of it. So let's just show you the board a bit more. I like the board. So in this game, you'll be fighting monsters called Titans in the Ancient World. And while you're doing that, you're also trying to build a civilization. So even though you're building a civilization, and I gotta say, there are just so many buildings that you can build, so many different kinds. I love that. I love that. There's no way you'll ever end up probably seeing every single building in this game, probably. You certainly won't be able to build them all, but so many different cool buildings there are. It's amazing. It's an awesome game. That's one of the things I like. All the various buildings that you can build in this game. I also like the Titans. There's a lot of really cool Titans. So here's some of my favorites. The Desert Wanderers, Sand Screamer, Hill Stomper, kind of looks like a giant tortoise with sort of a spiky back. The Sightless Hunter, which is obviously a kraken. The Venom Dragon. Ho ho ho! I love that one. The Scorpion, the Fire Serpent is the most favorite of them all. chasm sleeper, magma worm, so a big giant worm that basically breathes fire, and then the giant cragma, which is obviously a giant crab. There's a lot more monsters, but these are my favorites of the monsters in the game. So in this game, you'll be fighting monsters to try to save your civilization, because these titans are just ginormous, and they're just big enough to basically flatten your city. And so you will be using armies. Various armies will come, and you'll be recruiting various armies to help defend your civilization, your city. And you'll be using weapons like swords and arrows, that kind of stuff, to fight these ginormous titans off with. So I really like that aspect of the game too. And what's another really cool thing is, even though you're going against other players in this game, trying to build the best civilization you can with these titans coming to destroy your civilization, you can actually help out your opponents. You can help them out. If they're having a hard time defeating a certain titan, you can help them out. And it'll actually help you out a whole lot more, because it'll help bring even more prosperity to your city, and it might even give you some extra ambrosia tokens as well if you do so. And that's another thing. I really like these ambrosia tokens a whole lot. They're really cool too. So that's another thing I like about the ancient world. I also like the scoring. It's really easy to score in this game, really easy to figure out. There isn't a lot of different ways you can get points. In most games, there's so many different ways you can score points in most games that it can get confusing how you score points or what you are going to choose to score points. But really, you're only going to score points on these banners. These banners are the monsters, the titans that you defeat. You get points for the banners for them, a certain amount of points for each of the 5 banners that we have here, which are basically for the 5 different tribes in the game. And not only that, but there's a couple other ways you can actually even lose points too, because your citizens in your city, they need to be taken care of too. So if you're not able to feed your citizens, you'll get some minus points for that as well. So that's another interesting aspect to the game. But yeah, basically you're just going to score points with the banners, and you might score a few points otherwise another way. But it's super easy to score points in this game. Super easy to figure out how to score points. I really like that too. And then talking about the Titans also makes me want to bring up the faction boards. So normally, they're double-sided, and they're double-sided because this side here is meant to make it so that when you play, even though you're playing with the different types of player boards here that look completely different from each other, even though you're doing that, it's played this way so you don't play with the powers. Because if you play with this side, they each, like the architects of Amnite here, each civilization has their own ability that they get that makes them unique from maybe the unearthers of Umnok, or the merchants of Merlum or Marlum. And then we have the guardians of Galadan. So they each have their own special power or skill that is unique to this player board, which is really cool. So not only do they look different, but you can play with a mechanism that will make each of the player boards different with some additional abilities as well. But that's not the only thing that makes playing with the player boards different, because depending on what player boards you play with will depend on the very first Titan that comes to try and destroy your city. And so there's one for each of the player boards. And so if you're fighting a Titan with the Guardians of Galadan, the Titan that you'll have to fight first is this one here, the Calamity Vulture, and he's going to go right there, where the symbol for the Titan is. So that's really cool. So you get to fight this thing first if you are the Guardians of Galadan. So that's really cool. And then if you're the Architects of Amnite here, you get to go against this awesome snake, the Solarosian Serpent. That's really cool. I like that one a lot too. I love snakes, so anything snake related is going to be awesome in my book. So even though, yes, they're coming to destroy my city, they're still really cool. Or, you know, and then, of course, if you're fighting against the Unearthers of Umnak, you get to fight against the Frost Wolf. Another one of my favorites, for sure, along with that other snake, obviously, the Frost Wolf. So you get this one as your starting Titan. And then, of course, if you're the Merchants of Merlum, you get to fight against this guy here, the Toracron, which is just basically a big buffalo type Titan. So that's really cool too. So that's another thing I really like about this game. So player boards, monsters, Titans, obviously fighting the Titans. And that's pretty simplistic too, fighting Titans as well. And then using armies to fight the Titans that are just using bows and swords and stuff like that. So it's really down to earth. Well, as down to earth as ginormous Titans that are the size of tall buildings can be, of course. But still, nonetheless, really cool game. So this was my number 7. So, what's my number 6? Why don't we see?